What started me thinking about all this, apart from it being all over the news and the internet, was seeing all the videos on YouTube with guys in the US filming themselves open carrying rifles and making sure they had an encounter with the police. For people unaware what open carry means, in the United States, open carry is shorthand terminology for openly carrying a firearm in public, and this includes rifles. Watching these videos on YouTube and seeing all the shootings on the news, I said to myself, Australia has been through all this, and I started to look into the Australian and the US gun laws. I started thinking why. I don't understand why you need a rifle while out shopping or grabbing a coffee. Which took me back to Tasmania, where I grew up. On the 28th of April 1996, Martin Bryant murdered 35 people at Port Arthur in Tasmania. He injured 18 more people. He started his killing spree in a coffee shop. The weapons he used were a Colt AR-15 and an L1A1 self-loading rifle. The Howard Coalition government acted swiftly. Other political parties cooperated and the National Firearms Agreement, the NFA, came about. Soon improved gun laws existed throughout Australia. The inventory of semi-automatic rifles and shotguns was greatly reduced. Gun registration was made universal, and improved licensing systems was introduced and gun storage demands improved. It took several years for the benefits to be seen. Australians are safer from gun misuse since those new laws took effect. The graph below shows the rates of firearm homicide have varied in Australia over the period 1915 to 2006. More recent figures up to 2009 suggest that the rates remain near 0.1 per 100,000 of population for firearm homicide. It is clear that the declines in death rates are associated with the list of stricter gun laws introduced, as shown on the right-hand side of the graph. As I started to research, I went on the internet and started looking around for information on gun laws in the United States and was overwhelmed by the amount of information that is available. I came across this website that shows you every state in the United States and their gun laws on whether they need a permit to purchase a long gun, as in a rifle or a handgun, whether the firearm needs to be like firearm registration, owner license required, carry permits issued, open carry permitted. What I came across was that just about every state, there is a few that you have to be licensed and you have to go through a check process, but most of them allow you to buy a weapon, especially rifles, whether I'm not talking about military style rifles, I'm talking about, your hunting rifle, your bolt action hunting rifle. You don't need permits, you don't need registration, you don't need anything to gain these weapons. And also most states, not all of them, but most states allow open carry. Now, if you go through all the different states, it asks you the same thing. Like in Arizona, assault weapon prohibition or restrictions? No. Magazine capacity restriction? No. Owner license required? No. Open carry allowed? Yes. Like they all have their little differences from state to state. Now, I'm not saying that I know the laws in the United States. I'm not saying I know all the legislation in the United States. This is just me with my opinion and my concern. As I was going through all this, I was just dumbfounded that any law-abiding citizen can buy a weapon. Now, I grew up doing a lot of hunting when I was younger, many, many years of hunting and shooting. Now, in Australia, if you are a professional shooter, as in you go out and you're shooting like kangaroo or brumby, things like that, for a living, you're allowed to have weapons, as in hunting rifles, not handguns, not military style automatic rifles. If you are in a sports club, you can have permits to buy shooting rifles, as in target shooting rifles. Now, if you are a like a weekend shooter where you want to go out hunting, if you have a property that you're allowed to have access onto, you can put in a application to gain a gun license. But you have to have a property, own a property, or have permission to go on a property from the farm owner to be able to hunt on weekends, as in a like a leisure shooter hobbyist. Now that's fine. There's no need to have all these other weapons at home, all that sort of thing. That's in Australia. That's the law. I just don't understand what the need to have all these weapons, and seriously don't understand what the need to walk down the main street of a town in front of other people and children with rifles hanging over your shoulder. I just don't understand what that's about. I seriously don't understand it. I'm not doing any of this because I hate Americans or the USA. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this out of my concern. We went through all this trouble in Australia and our government stepped in and changed the laws, and now the murders and the massacres that are still continuing in your country have basically ceased in Australia. There are still cases of murder, but not to the extent of these massacres that we keep hearing on the news and YouTube in the States. It just, I just don't understand what the need for all these weapons are. Like I said, if you're a shooter that wants to go out on the weekend to a property that you have permission to go onto, I don't have a problem with that. I've done that for many, many years myself. But I don't see the reason, I don't see the need to have a cupboard full of weapons, guns, rifles, military weapons, handguns, all of that sort of stuff. I don't see the need for it. We certainly don't have a need for it here in Australia. I just don't understand why you need to have that in the United States. So basically, that's what I'm going on about this website, all the information that you can get off the internet. I've done a lot of searching and there's just so much information. I'm not sure what's 100% true and what's not. But from what I've researched, the everyday person, the everyday law-abiding person in the United States can buy a rifle or a handgun, and majority of the states allow them to do that without any pre-checks like history, criminal history, um, medical, mental medical checks, anything like that. If there is, put it in the comments below. Let me know. I'm not doing this to cause arguments or trouble. I'm just trying to understand it. And I'll put the link for this page into the description below so that you can just go and have a look. You have a look through all the states and all the permissions and non-permissions here, and you let me know, and you tell me if it's wrong or if it's right. I just need to know. I just want everyone else to know, understand, like that doesn't live in the United States, just to understand what's going on, because from outside of your country, it just looks like there's so much death going on with guns and weapons, and I just don't see the need for that anywhere. One death is too much. One death is too much. Recently, US President Barack Obama has used Australia as a positive example of a country that tightened gun laws after a mass shooting. He was speaking at a memorial service for the victims of America's latest mass shooting and was making yet another impassioned appeal for the US to reform gun ownership laws. No other advanced nation endures this kind of violence. None, he declared at a ceremony in the Washington Navy Yard, where a contractor killed 12 people in a gun rampage. There have been several mass shootings in the United States and in recent months, and after each, Mr. Obama has pushed the case for tighter controls on gun ownership, to no avail. Mr. Obama says the latest bloodshed, in which a troubled former serviceman shot randomly at workers at the naval headquarters, should be a wake-up call for all Americans. Our tears are not enough. Our words and our prayers are not enough, Mr. Obama said. If we really want to honour these 12 men and women, if we really want to be a country where we can go do work and go to school and walk our streets free from senseless violence without so many lives being stolen by a bullet from a gun, we are going to have to change. Here in America, the murder rate is 3 times what it is in other developed nations, he warned, citing Australia and Britain as countries that tightened gun law after mass shootings. The murder rate with guns is 10 times what it is in other developed nations, Obama said. After 20 children and 6 adults were killed in a school rampage in Newtown, Connecticut in December, shows what is different in America is that it is easy to get your hands on a gun. Figures released this month by the FBI showed that 14,827 people were murdered last year in the US. The rate is 4.7 murders per 100,000 people, is significantly higher than those in other wealthy nations. The comparable rate is 0.4 in Japan, 0.8 in Germany, 1.0 in Australia, 1.1 in France, and 1.2 in Britain. This is according to the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. The United States is one of the world's most heavily armed nations, with between a third and one half of all Americans owning guns. I just don't understand. I just want to finish this video while the pictures are rolling of all the people that were killed in the United States over the last few years. I just want to read out the names of all the people that were lost, all the people that were killed in the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania. Winifred Joyce Applin, age 58. Walter John Bennett, aged 66. Nicole Louise Burgess, age 17. Sao Lang Chung, age 32. Elva Rhonda Gaylord, age 48. Zoe Ann Hall, age 28. Elizabeth Jane Howard, age 26. Mary Elizabeth Howard, aged 57. Mervyn John Howard, aged 55. Ronald Noel Jerry, aged 71. Tony Valduva Kiston, aged 51. Leslie Dennis Lever, aged 53. Sarah Kate Lawton, aged 15. David Martin, aged 72. Nolene Joyce Martin, aged 69. Pauline Virginia Masters, aged 49. Alana Louise Mikak, aged 6. Madeline Grace Mikak, aged 3. Nanette Patricia Mikak, aged 36. Andrew Bruce Mills, aged 49. Peter Brenton Nash, aged 32. Gwenda Joan Neander, aged 67. Mo Yi Willing Nig, aged 40. Anthony Nightingale, aged 44. Mary Rose Nixon, aged 60. Glenn Roy Pears, aged 35. Russell James Pollard, aged 72. Jeanette Kathleen Quinn, aged 50. Helena Maria Salzman, aged 50. Robert Graham Salzman, aged 57. Kate Elizabeth Scott, aged 21. Kevin Vincent Sharp, aged 68. Raymond John Sharp, aged 67. Royce William Thomas, aged 59. And Jason Bernard Winter, aged 29. May they all rest in peace. Thank you.